Good evening and welcome to today's group chat from what we seem to be called the Love Shack last time, and it is this time again with myself, Mitra, Andrea, and Nisanka. This time we are going to be talking about all things self-love, self-care. What is it? How do you do it? And why don't we do it? And all these different things. So now they've had a couple of minutes to sort themselves out. I'm going to bring them in one by one. So good evening, Mitra. Good evening, Andrea. And good evening, Nisanka. How's everybody doing?
Wonderful.
Excellent.
Wonderful.
And so I've just told everybody that we're going to be talking about all things self-love. And I know that self-love is causes a lot of anxiety and things, which is Nisanka's area where she specializes. So I'm going to start with Nisanka and bring her on to talk a little bit about self-love and self-care. And what would you like to share with our listeners right now?
Oh my goodness me! I can write a thesis on this matter, Alan, and I'm sure you'll all agree with that. But I will brief what I believe self-care to be. In my observation, in the work I do, and the simplest way I can put it across is that there's a hi everyone, and thank you for watching. I forgot to introduce myself. I'm Nisanka. I help people eliminate anxiety and turn anxiety into growth. So when it comes to self-care, I see a triangulation of approach that we can give to self-care. One is our everyday self-care practice that we need to build up, which has to be consistent. And the other angle of that triangle is, in my observation, is continuous assessment of our current situations, right? And get some clarity and our goals. And in sort of more like self-actualization, that's where we're looking at. And the other angle that I'm seeing is, I call it clearing the clutter. It's basically, actually resolving any unhealed, unprocessed emotions. Unless we look at all these three, we will find ourselves spending more time in one angle, which is the everyday self-care, which most of us believe to be the one waiting for a weekend, having a half an hour bath, or waiting for a whole month and book a spa day, or waiting for a year or a term or go on a holiday. That's the consumer idea, or the marketing or the monetization of the whole self-care approach to us. So when you don't spend enough time in the other two angles, the self-actualization and the assessment, continuous assessment, and the clearing the clutter, what happens? You spend more money on the one point, that looking after ourselves, and spending more and more money on products and services, which actually does serve us for a very short period of time, but the bottom of the problem, or the core of the problem, just keeps going on. The way I describe it is, when you brush your teeth, you buy toothpaste, you brush your teeth, you've been told to brush your teeth, and you brush your teeth, but you keep eating an Oreo at the same time because the clutter is still there. The clutter is still there. It keeps coming up. And so you spend more and more time and money on brushing your teeth. Actually, is that self-care? That's a question for you to ask yourself. That's my view. Are you all right, Alan?
Yeah, I'm all right. So what came to mind while you were talking there, Nisanka, is when we talk about clearing the clutter. Imagine if in our house we never took the rubbish out. After a while, it's gonna stink.
It does.
It's gonna be a mess. Nobody's gonna want to come round to your house for a cup of tea, are they? So you wouldn't leave all the rubbish at home. You wouldn't leave it there and then invite your friends round. You chuck it out. Yet what we don't do often enough is chuck out the rubbish out of our minds and out of our hearts. And it stays there and it stays there and it stays there. We push it down, we bury it, we hide it, we pretend it's not there. But it is, and it does show up sometimes. So I'd like to move over to Andrea now. What would you like to say about self-love or self-care?
Okay, well, first I'll introduce myself. I'm a Tantra practitioner that lately I've been creating divine connection through sex and sensuality. And I believe that self-care is definitely something we need to do on a daily basis. Nisenka, I totally agree. We don't take that time, whether it is just instead of once a week having a bath, have it every day. Go for a walk. Admire yourself in the mirror. Have an orgasm. I think that's really important on the daily to get rid of that clutter. Clear out the
absolutely.
so to speak. I think it's really important, self-care and self-love. Self-love is really, it's a place that you get to. It's not something that happens overnight, and we're not taught to love ourselves. So it's like learning a new practice. It's like you have to take little steps every day, whether it's, you know, for some people, it could be just brushing your hair or just brushing your teeth, but daily or twice a day, you know, little goals. Self-love I know for people that aren't taught how to do it, it's not an easy place to get to. And they think like, oh my God, what does it mean to even love yourself? So learning how to do that through self-care, it really works. Like reaching out to your friend if you just need support for something, instead of having them say, oh, you should do this or you should do that. Have someone who can hold that space and be like, oh, you know what? It's okay. Feel that way. Be that right now. If you're not so good, I'll support you in that. And then when you're over it, we'll try something different. So that's kind of how I see self-care and self-love.
Beautiful. And something that came up for me in listening to you is that we're not taught it. And what I remember being a child in school and at home is that if somebody had shall we say, a bit of an arrogant streak, and it was said that, oh, they really love themselves, it's like loving yourself is a bad thing and really has a lot of negative connotations surrounding it. So when someone says, whether it's a coach or whatever, you need to love yourself, and you naturally think, I don't want to do that. I don't want to be judged that way. So how can we overcome that if that's a challenge for someone?
I think honestly that's ego, when you come across as arrogant, or, you know, like, I love myself, but I don't go running around like egotistical about it, you know, like, oh, you need to do this, you should do that, you got to be better than other people. Like, when it comes from a place of ego, then you get that negative vibe from it. When it comes from a place from your heart, you just don't even realize, when you live love, there's no ego involved in that. You're not telling people what they should and shouldn't do. I don't shit on anyone.
Yeah. Sorry, yeah. Just want to add to something that Andrea said. And if you're comparing yourself to someone else, you know, oh, I'm better than that person, therefore I love myself, there is no self-love there. Like Andrea said, it's a good clue for you to know whether you love yourself enough, you know your self-worth. If you keep comparing yourself, I do better, therefore I love myself, then what we see is ego. There's no self-love there. And I'm sure Mitra has a lot to say about self-love.
And with that, over to you, Mitra.
Well, I cannot beat what Andrea said. A beautiful orgasm a day keeps the doctor away. You know, even in that phase, ego comes in and hurt comes in. You know, sometimes people have orgasm in anger and detest rather than with the self-love. So I am so pleased that all of us friends have come together to discuss on it. And I have talked about self-love for quite some time, and I do see that sometimes the leadership, not the leadership of conservative or labor or politics leadership, but go beyond even our religious leadership, all the people beyond it
Mm.
have somehow taken away this notion of self-love, because you are always expected to give, always expected to give to your child, to your parent, to your husband, to your wife, to the society, to the job, to the work. Think how tiring can it get? How tiring can it get? And you can picture a human sitting in a corner thinking, where has life brought me now?
Mm.
And this is where that little flower needs to start open. That self is where it all begins. It all begins. And if that self had the tender love from yourself, you don't need anyone's authority to love yourself. You don't need anyone's approval to love yourself. And when you get that stronger within you, I'm telling you, the whole universe starts to love you. And I would request anybody listening today that it needs to start with you. People are saying self-love is X, self-love is Y, self-love is Z or Z. Some people say happiness is self-love. Some people say having a good family is self-love. Some people say going to the gym is self-love. The Atma, connecting to the Atma, is self-love.
Mm.
You connect to the Atma and life just flows. And I would rest my case on that for now, but thank you. Thank you.
Thank you for sharing, Mitra. That was beautiful. And yeah, absolutely, it does start with yourself, because we all talk about giving love and giving love. Unless there is love within us, how can we give it? So we either have to get it from external sources or create it within, or better still, accept the fact that it may not be a fact, but I believe it to be true, is that we are all energy. Love is energy. Therefore, why can't we just be love instead of looking to get it, looking to find it? Be it.
Mm.
And decide for yourself what love actually means for you. Because there's a million different descriptions of what love is. Because there are millions of different people, and it's going to be different for every single one. So what is love for you? That is always a great question. And I don't feel I've had a client yet that has actually known the answer to what is love for them.
Mm.
Because it's not something we think about. And I had something flash up on Instagram earlier today, and I actually think it would be really nice to share it here. And it says, the question, what is love? And the answer is by Emma, age 6. Love is when you're missing some of your teeth, but you're not afraid to smile because you know your friends will still love you, even though some of you is missing. And just to add to that, if you can be that friend to yourself, that for me sums up what self-love really is. Loving yourself as you would your friends, even if you feel there's part of you that is missing.
I agree. That's
That is
beautiful.
beautiful.
Mm-hmm. Super beautiful.
So let's just flip this around for a second and go from talking about self-love to the reverse side, self-hatred or self-loathing. Where does that come from? And how can people really overcome it? Because when you're in that place, you look at yourself in the mirror and say, there's no way I can love me or anywhere else or anyone else. So how can we overcome that? Where does it come from? Who would like to speak to that for a moment?
Yeah, I can share. I think that a lot of us have a lot of trauma from our childhoods. And so when we go way back to what happened to us when we were young, we carry that feeling with us. Like I know for myself, I really didn't fit in my home. So I always felt unwanted. And I felt that way in every situation for a really long time. I had to address where the unwanted feelings were coming from. And it did go right back to my childhood because that's how I felt. But I brought that into my family, like my own children and husband and whatnot. I felt unwanted in that. And why? And my children loved me. My family was happy, but I really needed to dig deep. So I do think that we carry a lot of stuff that, we heard when we were little or our parents told us, and we hang on to it. You have to get rid of that.
I couldn't agree more. Yeah, I couldn't agree more, Andrea. And it all comes down to what happens to us and how we process that. And I am, like Alan said, I am yet to experience a session where we didn't end up in the childhood. When we do the deep subconscious work, I'm yet to experience a session, and I have been doing this over a period of time with different types of clients. And sometimes it is as simple as what they bring to the table is, I am just not creative today and I cannot do this and I can't get this done. And we end up, trace it all the way back to childhood of, us not feeling attached, not feeling loved. And we have to remember our parents did best with the resources they had at the time. Parents, adults in our life, carers, whoever that around us at the time, they did their best, but it's not the best for us, right? So what happens in our society at the moment, there's this religious, cultural, social conditioning going on, especially with children. There's, you've got to revere your parents, you've got to respect your parents, and we've got to be careful conditioning our children that way. We need to support our parents in order for them to be able to have that brain capacity so they can be emotionally available for their children. And at the same time, we need to encourage our children to question, is that the best option for you? And if not, how can they come forward and talk about it and resolve it so that we break the patterns of stigma going on? So we don't hide away in shame, or we don't hide away feeling guilty that we're talking against our parents. Now, Andrea, I can say the same thing for you as well. Long time abandonment. So that's where my self-loathe, self-hate, and came from. Couldn't love myself at all. So I couldn't accept love from anyone else either because just didn't know what it felt like. I've not experienced it. And I know my parents, with the very little resources, emotional resources they had, they did their best. At the same time, it wasn't the best. I've experienced severe trauma as a result. Here's the thing, we can create that childhood all over again. We need to heal our inner child in order, like Andrea said, in order to attract love in our life. And we love, like Mitra said, that atma, that soul. When we love our soul, we can do that when we let go of the unprocessed emotions and the stories we have been telling ourselves. One of the best things, one of the common examples I hear is, oh, I'm lazy. Are you? Right? Or I am so mean to people. Are you? Really? Why are we giving these identities to ourselves? Those are our behaviors. Those are not our identities or souls or we as people. So self-love. So listen to your language, right? Trace it back, ask questions. The best thing is to get curious, not to hide away, not to feel ashamed. Best thing is to get curious, because a curiosity means you can ask all the right questions, and every question is a right question. You ask about yourself, about self-love, lessons in your life, every emotion, every question is a right question. We'll just start from there.
Excellent. We have a question that's been posted in the chat somewhere, which says, what if self-hatred comes from the negatively polarized culture that I find myself in? That's a
Would
great
you like
question.
me to go with it? Would you like me to give an answer, or would anybody like to give an answer?
Go
Go
for it.
for it, lady.
I'd like to see what Mitra's got to say on that one to start
I
with.
think so.
Hiding in the background.
You know, the slate can be wiped clean, and life can begin right now. What has happened, what we have thought, what we think that has happened to us, can all be mended as long as we are alive.
Yeah.
So I thank my friend who's put the question that it is time to wipe the slate clean and write your story. What
Yeah.
if we keep thinking about what has happened and then get into that mix of either burning ourselves or the emotions or whoever has done to us or whatever? This drop is the moment to start it, and rest will follow. I'll come back to the answer again. Let's listen to Nisanka. Thank you.
Yeah, I mean, I think I have very similar answers, but I was going to tell a little bit more about more relatability, because I found a lot of relatability in that question. The cultural conditioning is something I have to let go a lot, whether it comes to my sexual, the accepting the sexuality, my preferences to how I am, in that whole context, to accepting me as a woman, and then the me being this goddess and woman, accepting that I have capabilities to a lot of things. I've had a lot of cultural weight put on me, shackles that was put on me, by my culture. The thing is, what we have to understand it, if we are questioning about that, that means we are ready to unshackle ourselves. That's a great start. That's a great place, because you started asking that question. Great place. That's curiosity. Second thing is, we can love our culture, we can be a part of our culture, but not be defined by our culture and not be limited by our culture, right? I am brown, I am Sri Lankan, my mother tongue is Sinhala, I use my hands to speak. There's a lot of things about me that I am so proud of, right? I let go of the stories that my culture told me. You are a woman, your job is to get married and have babies. I let go of that. I decided only want one child. I want a big business. I want a big life, right? I've decided that for myself, right? I can still do that while being brown and eating with my hands and, okay, not spending money on tan. The thing is, we can get, you've started a good question. Yes, we can let go of this cultural conditioning. These are generational conditioning as well. Our parents didn't know any better, but we're getting curious. We're exposed to better resources. Let's make the most of it.
Beautiful. So I'd like to go share something from my own journey. And it's come from something that Mitra said about wiping the slate clean. So after my divorce and stuff, I looked at myself in the mirror and I'm like, first question, who the hell are you? Seriously, who are you? And went through all the stuff of like, I'm this body. No, I'm not this body. Well, who am I? And everything else. And who and what do I really want to be? So I looked at the people that, a lot of the men that I looked up to, respected, said, okay, well, one of them, it doesn't matter if they were a character in a movie or a rock star or whatever. So I looked at Hugh Jackman, the badass Wolverine that nothing would stand in his way and he would protect those he loved till the death. So I took that from him. But then there's also the other side of him, the singing and dancing greatest showman. I took that part as well. And I took bits from the guys from Iron Maiden and Metallica and my father and some of my teachers and put all these things into a mixing bowl and mixed up this little cake that is who I have become today. So you can wipe that slate clean, take everything you've been told that you are or were in the past that you don't love, and create anew. The page is blank, and you're the one holding the pen. A little bit like Neo walks in to the Matrix for the first time, and there's just this white. There's nothing around. And Morpheus says, you can create whatever you like. You want guns, you want this. Here it is. You just need to know what you want, and it can come. So that, in effect, is what I did. And any person on this planet can do that too.
Yeah, life is a choice. Like love is a choice. Self-care is a choice. I'm going to choose to do it, or I'm just going to wallow in my pain because that feels good right now. Some people like that, you know?
Yeah. Some people receive a lot of love for playing that part, and that's why they do it.
Absolutely.
That's why you think for us as a society or as a human, to prove that we belong, loss of sadness is portrayed more than the happiness. Because your counter human is more receptive to how sad you are. Because sometimes secretly, either it is a pleasure in seeing your misery, or I mean, this is the fact. You know, I would like to say my sad stories to the world so I can have some compassion. I am looking for my own identity. Listen to this really, really carefully. You know, the identity that I'm looking for, I will try and find it either in sadness or happiness. To hell with this self-love. Nobody cares when I talk about, you know, you'll be surprised how many people keep their self-love in a corner hidden. And it's almost like a fantasy rather than something that they would strive to achieve. So something that I always say is the journeys that we take and the life that we make, somehow, somewhere, we forget ourselves. Not only forget, we intentionally remove ourselves from the picture. Because my happiness will be less regarded than my sadness. You know, go on Facebook today or social media. You know how many people I'm seeing these days who are almost having breakdown, like mental breakdown because of social media. Go and post something that, you know, you're about to die. Or go and post something you've won £1 million. Look at the difference. We are dragging ourselves to what the world wants to listen. We are not listening to ourselves. So the self-love is being restricted right where it needs to start. I think we need to shake you up so we can wake you up. Not you know, in a literal sentence.
Absolutely.
Walk through the pain rather than walking around the pain.
or running away from it.
Yeah, exactly. Because they haunt you until you listen.
Oh yeah.
Yes, very much so.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, I think sometimes we are facing the way our minds are programmed to focus on fear and negativity. That's why the newspaper headlines are always negative, to get your attention.
Mm.
You see a headline that says thousands of people die and whatever, and it's like, oh, what, where, when? And then if it also says 1,000 people survived whatever it was and it's a glorious hot sunny day, oh, that's nice, and carry on. We don't sort of look into the positive stuff because it's not going to affect us. It's not going to have any risk of threat. We don't need to protect ourselves from anything. But that fear, that threat, gets our attention in a heartbeat. That's why we focus so much more on the fearful things than the loving things.
I also think the mere discovery of this word of self-love, self-care, just going on to this curiosity to even understand what the hell is this even self-care and self-love. I am trying to do everything that I can, but how phenomenal it is that people don't need to agree to what we say. I mean, I say absolutely stupid things anyway, so nobody needs to agree to me. But having that curiosity that a new beginning awaits.
Mhm.
And I have this amazing friends of mine, Alan, Nisanka, Andrea, and people can reach up to you and discuss one-to-one rather than making a post about it or a hoo-ha about it. Then just cleaning the slate and coming to you and say, you know what, here I am. This is my moment of life. Where do I go? Because it can be very difficult for us even to explain in 10 minutes. But here I am in my life. Where do I go? With that openness, with that selflessness, with that curiosity to know that is this race going to be from the cradle to the grave as it has been for millions of years? Or can I make it more interesting? That's why I rest my case. Thank you.
Absolutely. And it's that cradle to the grave that we all face. But it's that bit in the middle that we have to choose how it is going to be. And the only way to change it is to make some changes.
It's
Take
a choice.
action. It's a choice.
Make a decision.
Yeah.
Make the decision and have a different life. Like, you don't have to wallow in it forever.
No.
And I find like people who you surround yourself with has a lot to do with it too. Like,
Absolutely.
if you're surrounded by people who are just always complaining, or all they want to talk about is like the weather or whatever's happening in the world, I really don't surround myself with those people because that stuff kind of drags me down sometimes. I don't want to pay attention to what's happening in the world because my little world is pretty happy. And yeah, that's going on around me. I respect what's happening, but I'm not going to participate. I'm not going to participate in being around people who bring me down or who say that, if somebody told me that loving myself was like a bad thing, I would just be like, oh, well, maybe we should work on that for you. Let's get to the bottom of that so that you can have this freedom too. It doesn't matter what's going on around us. If your little world is happy, be happy.
Yeah, exactly. And you're absolutely right about decision making. We have to make these decisions every day. And the way I think I saw a post somewhere which got me thinking as well. We come always, decisions are about choosing a path. And some paths leads us to negative outcomes for us, right? And there's no self-love or self-care in it, even though it may seem like we're doing it for other people, and that's self-care is. There's no better outcomes for us. And then there's this part which can be slightly difficult, very difficult, because you have to, focus on the pain, deal with the pain. But it leads to better outcomes for you as well as everybody around you. And which part will you choose? Because to be honest, the both parts are really hard, right? Both parts are really hard. There's one part, there's a life full of stress, anxiety, overwhelm, depression, or the other mental health issues, which causes us to, let's look at the practical sides of it when we don't look at the self-care, self-love aspect. What's the practical impact? There's financial impact on us because, something like you're not going to work, you're not getting paid, there's the social impact. We're not connecting with the friends, families, we stay away, we build a wall around us, we don't know how to be, there's that. And then there's the biggest harm we do is to ourselves. We talked about the self-love at the beginning, stress and anxiety, any other mental health issues, going on and on for years because we refuse to look after ourselves and give the love that we deserve, causes us diseases because our body has a way of telling us, like Alan said at the beginning, shake us up. If you don't do it, the body will do it. It will shut you down. It will stop functioning and it will tell you, well, here's the pain there, here's the pain there, there's diabetes there, there's cancer. All of these things will tell you, it's like, what's happening? Just wake up, do something. This is like we're flooded in toxic chemicals here. What's going on? It will tell us. So really bringing it all back to self-love and self-care. Self-love is self-care. We have choices, and self-love means you raise your frequency, raise your vibration. You love yourself. How you do it is completely up to you, right? But it's a consistent thing and it's an everyday thing. In its everyday situation. It's just not like you wait for a week and then you start loving yourself. It's every day, every situation, you make the better choices for you. In that way, you give something back to the society, to the family. You give back. You can't pour from an empty cup.
And it's okay to be down at times because this is emotion. It's okay to feel bad and at times. It's okay to feel as of the feeling of failure at times. But if you have the space where you can always rise up, get up, and step back and come to it. And that's why almost we are here in our fields to tell you that it is okay. It is okay. It is okay.
And I think that is part of the challenge especially with lower vibration emotions like anger and frustration. We're kind of conditioned that they're bad. So we don't want to be seen as an angry person, so we'll bury our anger and suppress it and hide it. And it stays there, it remains, and it comes out eventually, as Nisanka says, as a disease, or comes out in a way that says, I can't be lovable, I can't love me because I feel angry sometimes. As Master Yoda says, anger leads to hatred, hatred leads to the dark side. But for me, I think a lot of it is about suppressed anger, not anger itself. When that anger is felt, respected, learnt from, and let go, then you don't go to the dark side. There's no reason to, there's no need to. You stay in the light.
We are all human, right? So we have to respect, like, humans have emotions. It's not about, like, just what you said, suppressing the emotions, because that doesn't do anybody any good. in any way, shape, or form. But a lot of people run away from them because we're not allowed to feel emotions. But what if feeling your emotions was self-care and self-love? Just being in that moment, allowing yourself, scream into a pillow, punch your bed, don't punch anyone out. Go do your jujitsu or beat up a tree. Take your anger out. It's okay to be angry. It's not okay to internally combust.
Absolutely. And just to start wrapping things up a little bit, for anyone that's watching, we will be back sometime next month. I don't know what the topic is going to be yet. And if there's a specific topic that you would like us to cover, drop it something down in the comments, and we'll see what happens. Mm-hmm. So I'm just going to go around the team, see if there's anything they'd like to just finish up on before we all disappear. I started with Nisanka last time and went anti-clockwise around the screen, so I'm going to go the other way this time and start with Mitra.
I am so pleased and loved almost being in this group. We have taken the step to take the messages out to the people who we can reach, and I would request people not to judge and come and embrace, and we love you. And on today's topic, we all want you to love yourself, and everything else can begin. And if there's anything at all that anybody wants to discuss, we are absolutely here. And I'm looking forward to, I'll be glad for somebody in the audience to suggest us what they would like us to blabber next time. That'll be great. Thank you. Thank you, Alan. Thank you, Nisanka. Thank you, Andrea.
Andrea.
Oh, well, bless you, lovely souls here inviting us all together, Alan. This is a fun little panel we have going on, and I'm really just excited to see wherever it's going, and I'll enjoy to carry on loving you and everyone watching and everyone in the world, because life is better with love. That's my choice.
Absolutely. And Nisanka.
I'm grateful that I'm here with all of you, 3 of you, obviously having this discussion. I am nourished by the discussion as well. I'm learning something every day, and I'm feeling the love as well. So I'm grateful. I'm grateful for that. You guys are watching, commenting, taking part in it. Just to, loving ourselves is a decision. It's a process. It's never too late to start it. So you can start that today, just by maybe going to bed early. If you're, so make that choice for yourself today. Take the actions. Reach out to any one of us. We're here to talk, just have a chat, explore. The choice is always yours. And we really send you all that love from all of us, that you'll have the courage to make that choice today for yourself.
Beautiful. And I just want to end off by saying thank you to all 3 of you for joining me with this crazy idea, and thank everyone for watching. And if anyone watching knows somebody who struggles with self-love or self-care, please share this video with them. And on that note, I wish you all a great day, great evening, great week, whatever time of day or night it is where you are right now. Thank you and goodbye.
Bye, everyone.